So, what happened to Dress to Impress's inclusive body types? Because my goodness, guys, about a year ago, there was all this uproar about, hey, Dress to Impress, like you're idolizing skinny body types, and that's unhealthy for kids to only be seeing skinny body types, and you're not being inclusive, and all this sort of stuff. And then people in the dev team released like a concept for the bodies, and then it was just radio silence. And I'm going to talk about it because I know a lot of you guys are agitated with this, and I think rightfully so. So, for those of you that don't know, there was about a year ago a lot of backlash from the community regarding the body types that are available in Dress to Impress, which I understand. There's the argument that, oh, it's a modeling game, so obviously there should only be real models in the game. But I feel like people fail to recognize that there are like plus size models and like, mid-size models that are part of the industry as well. So I think it's kind of like a flawed way of thinking. But regardless, there was a lot of backlash, and personally I felt like the models in Dress to Impress almost, although people have that body type, and personally that's more similar to my body type than a lot of other models, but it almost like errs on the side of being borderline kind of anorexic, which I know people may not like me for saying that, but I feel like it makes it seem like in order to be beautiful, you have to be very skinny. And anorexia is one of the most competitive disorders on the planet, where you are constantly being competitive with other people about who can be smaller, who can be skinnier. And it's a very, very hard thing to overcome because of the competitive nature of it. And I think it's unfortunate that games perpetuate that notion that to be beautiful, you must be skinny, you must be tall, and you must have these certain features, which I think is harmful. And so in response to that, Dress to Impress did release this kind of sneak peek on their Twitter. And it reads, okay, so we sent a lot of your feedback to our modeler. Is this more accurate? And they sent a, honestly, very nice looking model. You can see that it has a bit more weight to the arms, the elbows. The stomach area has a little bit of a section where it kind of comes out a little bit, which is a completely normal thing, especially for women, which people like to call it like mean names like a fupa and stuff like that. But it is like a pocket of, fat that your body will develop, and that's just part of being a woman. It's part of, it's your body's natural attempt to create a sort of barrier between the outside of your body and your uterus. And so that is something that's completely normal and will occur, and will also occur in other people as well. So not just saying it's gender specific. However, I do appreciate how they took that into account. And, obviously, instead of just like stretching the body outwards, they went ahead and actually took the time to individually model each piece, which I thought was really actually very good. They went ahead and clarified that they did get some backlash for having a thigh gap, but because of the way the clothing is, they couldn't take that thigh gap out. And then to my understanding, this is like the last thing we ever heard. And they had advertised at the time that it was going to be coming out next year. And ding, 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 this post was posted a year ago. It's next year. What's going on? What's going on? And to be fair, I did see some backlash. There is one comment here that says, people in the game already used the chat to be fatphobic. I don't see how actual representation and in a flattering context like this, after all the playing characters are fashion models, they are the standard of what's considered beautiful. Therefore, putting actual fat bodies in that position is affirming these bodies are beautiful could be hurtful. Not having well-represented fat bodies is exactly what causes people to be comfortable expressing their fat phobia in the game. So I think really you should rethink your point. So they're referring to somebody up here that says, as someone who's plus size, I can only worry about how people will use this to make us look ugly or mock us. I'm not looking forward to seeing trolls spam it to hurt people. So I understand kind of the duality of this, how people may use this body type and abuse it in the game to make fun of people. However, I feel like this is kind of like a situation where Dress to Impress can't win. It's like if they don't add it, then people are going to be upset. If they do add it, people are going to be upset. So it's like, this person responded to that person's comment and said, they are the standard beauty of what's considered beautiful. Therefore, putting actual fat bodies in the position is affirming the bodies are beautiful could be hurtful. What's hurtful is likely allowing people to mock us, knowing Roblox's report system and how useless it is. I've yet to see people in chat be fatphobic. It's one thing to say fatphobic things, and it's a whole other thing to use the body and mock us. I will not rethink my point because I have a right to be afraid of people being blank heads about my body, thanks. And the way you made an account just to argue with a plus size woman about their fears is disgusting. We have the right to feel uncomfortable about people potentially using the bodies to mock and demean. And then there's a comment that was put there that was deleted, so I'm assuming that was a not nice comment. Maybe. This person writes, personally, I'd like both to be added for more variety. People aren't either skinny or plus size. I think the first model could be nice in between. And, I understand like kind of the duality of this, that people are worried that if it's added, it'll be, an abused item. And if it's not added, then there's no representation. But at the same time, I feel like because anybody will abuse any item. We know that from Dress to Impress. They've had to remove several items, including the hot dog Halloween costume, because of weird things people are doing. And unfortunately, I think inherently there's always going to be trolls in games, but I don't think the presence of trolls should mean that you don't apply things that would show people that they matter. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we're not going to add plus size bodies because people are going to abuse it. Okay, well, then I guess you can't have skinny bodies either because people are going to abuse the skinny bodies, and they've been making inappropriate content using the body types in Dress to Impress for a while now and post it to YouTube for likes and clicks, right? So I think the argument that you shouldn't add them because it's going to be, abused by people, I don't think is really valid. I understand having the worry of it, but I don't think that worry should mean that it can't be implemented at all. I think maybe Dressed Impress needs to have a maybe in-game report feature. I'm not quite sure how they could implement that, but maybe like a section where you can report if people are abusing certain body types, and then submit a picture to like a ticket system in the Discord server to ensure that people who do that are promptly banned. However, I definitely don't think that some bad apples should mean that the broader community doesn't get access to representation. I think that's really hurtful. And what's even sadder to me is that Dressed Impress has yet to really say anything about this. I did look, I couldn't find any comments, and keep in mind this video is pre-recorded because I'm going on vacation, so this may change by the time I upload it, and if it does, I'll leave a pinned comment. But I think it's really unfortunate that games on Roblox typically tend to really just favoritize making money. And we see this with Royal High, we've seen this with some other games as well, and not just to demonize, every single game on the planet Earth, because games have to make money and I understand that. But I feel like for a lot of games, the reason that they don't put an effort into being inclusive is because it doesn't make them money. And that's the truth, is that them adding this other body type is just a ton of work for Dressed Impress, and maybe they'll get some sort of social credit and praise, but long term, it's not really going to help them, because any item that comes out, they're going to have to make it compatible. And once they kind of give a little, I know there's gonna be more demand for another type of body type and this kind of body type. And I would really like it if just a game could come out that represented people as they are. And maybe they could implement a sort of, thing where people can have, amputated limbs, which I know people might abuse that too, but having representation for people who have maybe physical disabilities, I think would be really, really helpful, because a lot of kids never see themselves or representations of themselves in these kind of games, especially dress-up games. And I think, if we're gonna start by being inclusive body types, I would hope that their goal would also to eventually add in things to make the game more inclusive, maybe something like hearing aids, maybe like a wheelchair, where I think they already have, maybe they don't, but just things like that could make people feel like they're seen in the game, which I think would be really helpful. And what's just unfortunate is that there hasn't been a lot of communication with this, and I understand maybe they're working on it behind the scenes and stuff like that, but it's just interesting to me that they can release all these different updates, like the Baddie Pass and the summer update and the fall update, and they could do a collab with Wicked, which I'm sure was no small feat. Like, that update was pretty impressive, I'm gonna be honest. So you can do all those things where it has to do with collaborating with larger platforms and things that make you money. But when it comes to adding inclusivity, that's just not on the table, which is really disappointing to me. And unfortunately, something I think we see with a lot of Roblox games is that as the game becomes bigger and it starts to become a business thing where they have to hire people and they have people relying on them to be paid, it turns into almost something where, in my opinion, it's like, okay, just keep pumping out updates, just keep pumping out items, buy my stuff. And that's why they added like the Baddie Pass with the diamond tier and stuff like that, where it's becoming almost very money grabbing, in my opinion. And there's all these pose packs and VIP, and then there's, you have to pay for the custom movement thing, custom makeup, and all this sort of stuff. And they're just adding in so many paid features into the game that is basically just like continuously taking money from their customers, because people don't want to be left out. And especially when like certain aspects such as like advanced movement and stuff like that give players an upper hand in the game, I think it's hard for players to not want to purchase it. And unfortunately, I think what matters most, in my opinion, is having inclusivity. I think that is the most important thing. I don't care about if you have an update with a movie. Sure, Wicked's a great movie, I agree, but what I would much prefer is being players feeling like they can, actually create themselves in a game and not feel like, I'm not this body type in Dressed Impress, so I'm inherently ugly. I think that's a really damaging thing, especially to the people who are playing Dressed Impress, which, although there are adults, there's also a lot of kids that play this game. And I think it's a really harmful narrative to spread that kids need to be skinny to be beautiful. And although they're not inherently saying that and being like, kids need to be like this, when your only representation of body types in the game is where you're dressing up and being beautiful is skinny, that is the message that you are sending to people. And I think it's very harmful. So regardless, I'm not trying to be like too nitpicky about it, but it's been really disappointing to not hear anything about the, plus size bodies coming to Dressed Impress. And I really hope that they will implement this, or at least give some sort of announcement of where they are in the progress of it. I'm, unfortunately really hoping this isn't true, but I've seen people saying that they probably just put that out there at the time because of the backlash and to make people shut up, and now they don't care, which I really hope that's not true. And I'm very, very hopeful that they will actually implement some plus size bodies into the game. But regardless, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.